Değerli konuklar, ikinci oturumumuz başlamak üzere. Bu oturumumuzda Balkanlarda bölgesel gaz ticaretine yakından bakacağız. Oturumumuzun moderatörlüğünü OME Hidrokarbonlar Direktörü Sayın Sohbet Karbuz gerçekleştirecek. Ve konuşmacılarımız da sahnede yerlerini aldılar. Onları da sizlere tanıtmak istiyorum. EFET Yönetim Kurulu üyesi ve AB İrtibat Ofisi Direktörü Jan Heisman, Uktransgaz Üst Düzey Mali Yöneticisi Sergey Oleksiyenko. Buyurunuz.
Değerli katılımcılar, hoş geldiniz bu oturuma. Şimdiye kadar ISTRADE'de hep Türkiye odaklı konuştuk. Nedense dışarıdaki gelişmelere birazcık gözümüzü kapatıyoruz. Halbuki Avrupa'daki gelişmelerin Türkiye'ye yansıması, etkisi son derece önemli. Türkiye piyasasına direkt gelen gaz ve piyasanın işleyişi konusunda. Şimdi iki tane değerli katılımcılarımız var ama hiçbirisinin henüz haç çıkardığını görmedim. Avrupa'da bazı oturum başkanlığı yaptığım toplantılarda katılımcılar haç çıkartıyorlar. Bizi köşeye sıkıştıracaklar falan diye. Ben öncelikle genel bir resim çizmek istiyorum. Ondan sonra sırasıyla katılımcılara söz vereceğim. Her ikisinin de değerli sunumları var. Şimdi Avrupa gaz piyasası, Balkanlar, Türkiye kapsamına baktığımız zaman birkaç konunun altını çizmek istiyorum. Birincisi Avrupa derken genellikle Avrupa Birliği'nden bahsediyoruz. Avrupa Birliği'nin gelecekte doğalgaz ithalat ihtiyacı ne olacaktır? Bu çok önemli bir sorun. İkincisi, bu soruya cevap vermek için her şeyden önce Avrupa'da doğalgazın rolü nedir? İleride ne olacaktır? Buna da bir şekilde cevap aramak lazım. Tabii rakamlara falan pek fazla girmek istemiyorum. Yapılmış onlarca çalışma var saygın kurumlar tarafından. Onların yaptığı çalışmalara şöyle teknik olarak baktığınızda, rakamları değerlendirdiğinizde şunu görüyoruz. Avrupa Birliği'nin doğalgaz üretimi düşecek. Şimdi Groningen'e getirilen yeni yaptırımlar nedeniyle biliyorsunuz Groningen sahası Avrupa'nın en büyük doğalgaz sahası. 2030 yılında üretim sıfıra indirilecek. Önemli bir gelişme. Dolayısıyla birçok kişiye göre ben hariç, şimdi kendini övüyorsun falan demeyin. Ortada kayıtlar var. Avrupa Birliği'nin kayıtlarına bakın. Bana o zaman deli demişlerdi. Avrupa Birliği'nin gaz tüketim tahmini bu kadar saçma sapan rakamlarla olur mu diye. 66 milyar BCM öngörmüştüm 11 yıl önce. Şu anda aynı rakamlara geliyoruz. Çünkü yıl be yıl yaptığımız o zamanki tahmin ve gerçekleşen rakamlara baktığımızda hata oranı %1'den azdı yıl başına. Diğer taraftan şimdi talep ne olacak? O pek bilinmiyor. Artacak bazılarına göre, azalacak bazılarına göre. Ama mesela saygın kurumların yaptığı 20'ye yakın çalışma ve senaryoyu göz önüne aldığınız zaman medyan ortalaması, yani medyan dediğimiz zaman çalışmaların, senaryoların yarısı medyanın üzerinde, yarısı onun altında. O rakamlara baktığımız zaman böyle plato şeklinde bir gelişme görüyoruz 2040'a doğru Avrupa Birliği doğalgaz talebinde. Peki hemen hemen yatay bir gaz talebi, düşen gaz üretimi ne demektir? Avrupa Birliği'nin doğalgaz ithalat gereksinimi artacak. Şimdi geçen seneki ISTRADE'de bir tane resim göstermiştim. bütün bu söyleyeceklerimi ve şimdiye kadar söylediklerimi ve belki de konuşacaklarımızı özetliyor. Ünlü bir giyim mağazasının vitrinini fotoğrafla göstermiştim. İndirim zamanı vitrindeki mankenlerdeki pantolonlar yarıya kadar indirilmişti. Kocaman da bir tabela koymuştu mağaza. Pantolonları indirdik, sizleri bekliyoruz. Ben dedim, işte Rusya'nın verdiği mesaj bu. Ben pazar payı, burada pazar payımı koruyacağım. Avrupa Birliği diyor ki, gaz arz çeşitlenmesi, security of supply, diversification vesaire, LNG, gelin benimle rekabet edin. Hani sokak ağzıyla diyorsa, sıkıyorsa LNG'yi sok. Pekala herkesin ümit bağladığı Amerikan LNG 2006'dan beri cayır cayır LNG satıyor. Avrupa'ya ne kadar geldi? LNG Asya'ya gitti. Güney Amerika'ya gitti. Çünkü rekabet etmesi zor fiyatlarla. Bu bir kısım. Bir kısım gelişmeler var. Avrupa Birliği ne dedik? Diversification önemlidir dedi. Tedarikçi ve tedarik yolu çeşitlendirilmesi. Biz buna girersek eğer ana satıcılar üzerinde, özellikle Gazprom üzerinde baskı oluştururuz. Bir sürü LNG terminalimiz var. Bunların çoğusu %22 kapasiteyle çalışıyor. Ve fiyatlarda bir baskı oluştururuz. Yaptılar mı? Yaptılar. Avrupa Birliği Komisyonu başka bir şey daha yaptı. Antitrust soruşturması başlattı Gazprom'a. Dediler ki sizin yaptığınız ticaret şekli Avrupa Birliği kurallarına uymuyor. Gazprom önce mırın kırın etti. Şu sıralarda yakında karara bağlanacak. Şartlarınızı bir şekilde kabul ediyoruz dedi. Ben esnekliği özellikle Balkanlarda ve Orta Avrupa'da esnekliğe gideceğim dedi. Avrupa Birliği aldığını, istediğini alacak. Diğer taraftan 3. paket var. Diğer taraftan yeni düzenlemeler var. Bunlar fiyatlara baskı yapacak. Ama diğer taraftan Rusya ne yapıyor? Rusya da bu pazarı bırakmak istemiyor. Niçin istesin? Bu pazara daha fazla hakim olmak, çünkü mesela Gazprom CEO'su hanımefendinin her yerde söylediği bir şey var. Biz ne pahasına olursa olsun Avrupa'daki pazar payımızı koruyacağız. Ne pahasına olursa olsun. Önemli olan, altı çizilmesi gereken şu kelime o. Diğer taraftan bakıyorsunuz, Kuzey Akım 2 projesi var. Bir taraftan Türk Akım 2'den bahsediyoruz. Diğer taraftan bir süredir devam eden Ukrayna'dan gaz transitinin durdurulması düşüncesi Rusya tarafından var. Bunu meslektaşımız bize ayrıntılarıyla söyleyecek. Şimdi Rusya tarafına Avrupa Birliği diyor ki biz Rus gazı istemiyoruz, tukaka, ama 2016-2017 Rusya'dan ithal edilen gaz rekor düzeylere çıktı. Demek ki ortada bir şeyler oluyor. Şimdi ISTRADE bu toplantının ilgisine, Balkanlar, Avrupa Birliği piyasası, bunların hepsinin Türkiye üzerinde çok çok önemli yansımaları olacak. Eğer Türk tarafı, bizler Avrupa'daki gelişmeleri kendi lehimize değerlendirebiliriz isek. Beni bırakırsanız ben daha çok konuşurum. O yüzden önce sayın sözü Efet'e bırakalım. Bakalım Balkanlarda olaylar nasıl gelişiyor? Sonra ben sorularımla sizi sıkıştıracağım. Ondan sonra sözü Ukraynalı meslektaşa vereceğim. Please, Ian.
I don't need it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for your kind introduction. It's always a pleasure for me to come here. You have a Mediterranean atmosphere here, and that is something helps in discussing things. Now, I would like to comment on what was just said. Obviously, the reason for Russian gas being off-taken to such large volumes in Europe is that there is a very good industry situation. The main industrialized countries in Northern Europe currently do not have any more unemployment. Germany is currently have a 3% unemployment rate nationwide. That shows that the industry is going very strong, and this is why the gas consumption simply is up. And it will obviously be up as long as the economy continues its current upstream development. Obviously, the Ukrainian situation is a very serious one, and it has obviously an impact on infrastructure products and projects, and we will discuss this later, I think, in the discussion. Now, I would like you to give a short walk through the southeastern European developments, because I have seen or observed that you're very much looking at Turkey, but you should maybe also look at your neighbors, what is happening there. And this is actually a little bit the task that was given to me, and I'm now acting accordingly. Now, what are the regional activities of IFED? We have currently 120 members out of 22 countries. Not a single member from Turkey, So this is a question, why do Turkish companies not engage in Europe? I think it would be good if you did. Not necessarily that you should move away your center of commercial activity here in Turkey, but you should learn. It's a good opportunity to learn how open markets go, and a venture which you could have in Europe would enable you to have maybe competitive advantage later on when this market will be liberalized. And I think this is something we have seen earlier with Eastern European companies that came to Western Europe earlier in order to learn how liquid markets, and particularly power and gas markets, work. Now, what are the views of IFED or the activities of IFED in the region? In Austria, we have a fairly good situation now. There is a liquid hub, there is good communication with stakeholders, but still the balancing regime there is not user-friendly. Austria had at the time introduced a system whereby in case of imbalances, the exchange would take action in order to outbalance or balance the participant, and that's still consistent, is not compliant with the network codes. You obviously may know that Europe is working on common network codes. There is capacity codes, there is balancing codes, there is congestion management codes. So we have, I think, in total 9 of those codes that are developed throughout Europe, and that will lead ultimately to the same network code and rules for transporting gas in the whole of the European Union. So this is a big project. It requires a lot of time, but it is moving ahead. It's moving ahead. It will also lead to further convergence of these various markets, which are sometimes still national. B stands for Bulgaria here, a country where there has been a long time no action at all. Bulgaria eventually got into trouble with the European Commission for not implementing any of the energy packages. So they have now decided to move ahead. Bulgaria is currently also still holding the presidency of the European Union, as you may know. So there are structural issues that remain, but there are preparations to start a virtual point on Bulgaria. There are preparatory works for a gas hub in Bulgaria. There is Bulgar-Transgas now has a transportation contract in English, something you would have not found on their website 2 years ago. So there is currently a very licensing-friendly environment. You could basically start shipping gas through Bulgaria today. You don't need any license for doing it. So all in all, it is a lot of development in a country which has seen none for 20 years. So there is a lot of positive things going on there. Obviously, it has also to do with wider developments, notably the potential arrival of new gas volumes in Bulgaria next year. Czech Republic is more and more improving into a liquid hub. It's balancing friendly, but it still makes it difficult for companies to actually go into the Czech market. In reality, that prevents companies from going there, that they need to still establish a company there. In most of the countries, this has been abolished, but not in Czech Republic. So this is something to be done. It, at the end of the day, hampers the Czech marketplace and makes it irrelevant compared to its neighbors. In Greece, equally there, the gas codes are now compliant with EU regulations. All the complaints that have been there for a while, or most of them, I should say, have been removed. But competition in this market, it's a very small market, is still slow. Looking at Hungary, here the system balancing is still managed by the TSO. The exchange the exchange landscape has been reformed, I should say. There is now a physical market exchange, which is the physical spot exchange, and separate from that there is an exchange looking at derivatives. So this is now separate, and there is an increasing liquidity there on both physical as well as financial side. It has to do partly again with Ukraine. Ukraine has been sourcing all of its gas from the West since more than a year now. That means that there have been tremendously more volumes being transported through Slovakia on the EU Stream system to Bödense, which is the main interconnection point with Transgas. And there have been also more volumes being transported, more volumes being transacted in Hungary that have been bought for Ukrainian consumption. A pain, obviously, in Hungary still is that non-EU entities are not licensable there. So this does not affect only Turkey at this point in time, but it would also affect the United Kingdom once the UK actually embarks on Brexit, which is planned for end of March next year. Most of our activities, by the way, are now currently turning around Brexit. It's a major development for Europe because this United Kingdom has been in the European Union for almost 40 years. That has created a lot of context, a lot of common connections, and to dismantle all of these and see and create an impact assessment is not an easy one. But for example, for Hungary, it would mean that any UK-based entities would lose their license on the 1st of April next year. Poland is a traditionally difficult traded market. They have a very well established hub, but no liquidity. It has to do, I believe, with the should say, dominant position of the Polish incumbent Picnic, and there is a very sort of a difficult storage regime now in place, which makes it for traders that just transit or traders that want to deliver into Polish end customer market very difficult to make their margins. Now we're coming closer. Romania, there again, the market setup is not compliant with EU legislation, but things are moving there. There is now the plan to have an entry-exit system installed this year. Equally, there are active projects to set up a virtual point in Romania, which will gain eventually liquidity, also obviously in connection with new gas arriving potentially in Bulgaria. So interconnections between Bulgaria and neighboring countries has been increased, and the exchange recently, the Bursa Romana de Marfiuri, has set up a special platform for gas that will also gain liquidity over the next couple of months. So there are developments in Romania which are noteworthy, similar to Bulgaria. Equally, there are noteworthy developments after a long period of, I would say, non-activity. For Slovakia, I already mentioned, it is not accessible to non-physical trading. It's a very physical trading location. It has a lot to do with transportation, a lot to do with backward transport from on the EU stream from the virtual point to Bödense. It has a good, a very efficient TSO there that also, I think, now looks into cooperation with Ukraine, Ukrtransgaz looking forward. And what is the positive effect of all of this? It is obviously a gain in liquidity basically by the day. And this is a development which has been going on for 2 to 3 years now. And now I would like to close with Turkey. I think some of you I talked to are negative about Turkey. I'm not 100% negative. I think there have been a couple of things that have been achieved here, and I think they should be noted. So there is a good project on the infrastructure projects which have been, which will connect Turkey to the outer world, so to say. TANAP, TAP, Turkstream, they all seem to be on time. And these are important elements for a future cross-border hub, which Turkey may eventually have. Noteworthy is also, in a positive sense, that BOTAŞ are offering monthly contracts into the market that gives more flexibility to the ones that need flexibility, and here we're thinking notably of the asset owners. So this is a good development. The EPIAS gas platform launch equally is a good development. It will bring in transparency at the spot end of the market. Obviously, it remains at the spot end. It doesn't bring overall transparency, but here in this element it does, and that is noteworthy and is positive. And the gas storage extension is equally a positive thing, combined with the increased LNG import capacities which came online last year. So looking at this, I think these are the positive points which are noted. What is more on the to-do list is the lower end of the page. For me, the unbundling of BOTAŞ remains a key decision that needs to be taken by the Turkish government. It has not been taken, but it is a key thing to do in order to create a market. So it is wonderful to have EPIAS and so on, but at the end of the day, this is the key decision, and it is not a threat to BOTAŞ. It's just a redefinition of BOTAŞ from a vertically integrated company into an unbundled company with various activities. All companies and all, other countries in the European Union have done it. The Ukraine has done it. So I think it's also now time for Turkey to move ahead with it. It will bring the key progress for this market space. But at the positive side, we can also see that the Gas Liberalization Act, which has been in the Parliament for a while, and I think will not be adopted soon, has not prevented EPIAS to exist. And Turkey needs to look at more systemic improvements of the management risk, of management credit risk. So this is a little bit of a worry we have, that the credit risk issues are not properly addressed here. And because of the market particularities of Turkey, this could turn out into a financial trouble. So this is clearly a warning that needs to be addressed by those of you. ETD is certainly working on it, I guess, but also you yourself, everyone here in the community, is a worry which you all share and which you only can solve together. And that was really it. I think the lack of transparency remains a major concern for price discovery here. Balancing markets, there are still some improvements to be made. And that is all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Heisman. Now, Ukraine. Again, Türkçe konuşalım. Ukrayna'nın Rusya ile verdiği mücadele, Avrupa Birliği'nin Rusya ile olan tartışması, altını çizdiğim özellikle bu antitrust, Avrupa Birliği'nin antitrust soruşturması ve de bu Stockholm Arbitration Court'un nihai sonuçları, benim şahsi kanaatim, Türkiye'nin Rusya'yla kontrat tazelemesinde, yenilemesinde veya ne diyelim, tekrar tahkime gittiğinde çok önemli getirileri olacak bir şey. Ve dolayısıyla bence Türkiye'deki doğalgaz ithalatçılarının son derece yakından takip etmesi gereken bir konu. Şimdi Avrupa Birliği için niçin önemli? Gaz biliyorsunuz geçen sene 75 milyar dolar gaz ithalatına para ödedi Avrupa. Bölün 52'ye 1,5 milyar dolar ayda gaz ithalatı için para ediyor. Dolayısıyla ne kadar az öderse o kadar iyi. Bırakın sadece gaz ithalatına ucuz para ödemeyi, Avrupa'daki sanayinin uluslararası piyasalardaki rekabeti için düşük enerji fiyatları önemli olduğundan gaz fiyatlarının ne kadar ucuza gelmesi ülke için önemli. Şimdi değerli Sergey Oleksiyenko, Ukgaz, Transgaz'dan,
Yes,
Naftagaz'ın fully subsidiary,
at
of
the moment,
Naftagaz.
yes, 100% subsidiary.
Benim Naftagaz'da beğendiğim, please, Twitter falan böyle sosyal medyada ben çok fazla zaman harcayamıyorum. Çünkü çok zaman gerektiren bir şey. Fakat Naftagaz'ın Twitter'ı sürekli takip ediyorum. Ve Naftagaz'da bu Twitter'ı düzenleyen, sürekli yazan arkadaşa sizin babınızda teşekkürlerimi sunuyorum. Ya bir şey bu kadar mı esprili, bu kadar mı zamanlı cevap verilir? Çok ilginç bir şey. Gazprom bir açıklama yapıyor. İşte Ukrayna'ya şöyle yapacağız, kontratlarımızı 2019 sonunda bitireceğiz diyor. Naftagaz Twitter'da hemen cevap. Tabii canım. 2,56 milyar dolar artıyor, haberin olsun. Böyle çok güzel şeyler var. Çok şeyler öğreniyorsunuz Naftagaz Twitter'dan. Zaten gerek sizin siteniz, gerek Naftagaz'ın sitesi son derece transparent. Her türlü veriye ulaşım kolay. Bu yüzden de galiba birçok Avrupa ülkesine örnek olması gerekir diye düşünüyorum. Şimdi özellikle bu Stockholm Arbitration Court'un nereye gidiyoruz? Ne olacak? Ne zaman sonlanacak? Tamamen Rusya ile ilişkiler nasıl olacak? Gaz akıtışı nasıl olacak? Transit olayı nereye gidecek? Sözü size bırakıyorum. Teşekkür ediyorum.
Thank you very much for this very kind introduction. Looking at energy trade in this region today, comparing it to the last 10 years, we are living in a totally different world. There are much more trade happening eastwards, westwards, south to north, and vice versa. We are living in a very interconnected world, and it is interconnected with the infrastructure, with the legal frameworks, and with the human relationship and human interactions. And the core of it, I think, is really a transparency and manipulation on the one side, and bias on the other side will hurt international trade with this respect. And that is why Naftagaz a few years ago became very, very vocal in social media and open and transparent in data exchange. And we are seeing a lot of interest in gas trading in Ukraine and using Ukrainian infrastructure also from companies in Turkey. And we are confident that with time, with joint effort in upgrading the regulatory framework and access to infrastructure on several key points, this will happen. And the region will benefit from the construction of additional infrastructure. But all the participants need to be aware that additional infrastructure sometimes will create risks, and Ukraine and many other countries lived through this quite intensely. The topics which will be covered in the presentation are focusing mainly on Ukraine, but you will know that similar wars with Russia on gas issues happened with many of the countries which were covered in Mr. Heitzmann's presentation. Gas wars with Russia happened in Czechoslovakia, happened in Moldova, happened in Poland, happened in Baltic states, and many of the Balkan states lived through difficult times living with Russia. Our modern part of relations with Russia started in 2006, where the first episode of Russia-Ukraine gas war started. And the tactics in many of these episodes were practically the same. Use the cold winter as a pretext, cut off supply being dominant or the only gas supplier to the market, create infrastructural and social tension, and through this achieve a very pragmatic, commercial, not transparent, but for-profit goals. Terminate old contracts, establish new contracts, introduce non-transparent intermediaries, and move forward. But the victims of this tension are definitely the suppliers and the common sense. The second episode of the fight happened in 2009, where Ukraine, and the tactics was the same. In the midst of the cold winter, cut off supplies to Ukraine, cut off transit supplies to Europe. Russia, being the only supplier to Ukraine, insists on a very uncommercial and very disadvantageous new gas and transit contracts for Ukraine. But 2009 was different. Russia used this year crisis to introduce a new, so to say, solution to the future gas crises, introducing Nord Stream and promoting a Nord Stream as a pipeline which will make next crises not possible. And in 2009, victims were not only Ukrainian consumers. Transit supplies were cut to many countries, including Balkans and including Turkey. But these ideas that Nord Stream will cut off or make next gas crises impossible through transit in Ukraine was not tested with the time. And in 2014, using as a pretext the contracts which was signed in 2009, Gazprom unilaterally and in one day increased gas purchasing price to Ukraine almost twofold. Ukraine did not accept this, and there will be more details in the next slides, but as a result of this, things went into Stockholm Chamber of Commerce for commercial arbitration. Gazprom started the litigation, but Naftogaz quickly responded with countermeasures and counterclaims. The litigation lasted more than 3 years, and in December and in February, Stockholm Chamber finally made the decisions and, finally made the decisions, and these decisions expectedly should be implemented. But what are the pretext of this war? The pretext is dependence on the Russia as the core gas supplier in the country. In 2012, Gazprom was supplying almost 100% of the gas to Ukraine. In 2014, where the acute gas crisis happened, Ukraine happened to diversify, but volume-wise, the supply in 2014 from European direction was almost a quarter. This quarter grew into two-thirds in 2015, and starting from 2015 and till the end of the Stockholm arbitration, no single cubic meter of Russian gas commercially was contracted from Gazprom. Ukraine was very successful in turning 180 degrees the direction of gas imports and achieved a very serious advantage in pricing and security terms. In late December 2017, Stockholm arbitration eventually made the final decision on the supply case. There were two major cases viewed by Stockholm on the supply and on transit. And together, this was the largest commercial arbitration ever reviewed by Stockholm and maybe other regions. The claims and counterclaims on both parties, Gazprom and Naftogaz, totaled more than $120 billion, and a pure win or pure lose could bankrupt both Gazprom and Naftogaz. We believe the Stockholm Chamber of Commerce made a very balanced and pragmatic decision. Gazprom claims on the contract gas prices were totally rejected. Gas price was pegged to European market and was awarded being substantially lower compared to the level the Gazprom wanted it. Gazprom take-or-pay claims were fully rejected for 2009 through 2017. The annual contract volumes of 52 BCM take-or-pay were reduced more than 10 times to 5 BCM only, and the deliveries to the disputed and occupied territories in Ukrainian East were totally rejected. Viewing this decision as final, Naftogaz immediately launched a discussion with Gazprom on the supply of the volumes in 2018. And in late February, Gazprom issued an invoice reflecting the terms and price for volumes ordered, and Naftogaz paid 127 million prepayment to cover the supply, which should have been started on the 1st of March. Technically, Gazprom did not sign the supplementary agreement on the supply ongoing from 1st of March, But during the negotiations, and this was witnessed by many third parties, Gazprom rejected actually the need for any additional supplementary agreement and noted that invoicing and prepayment of invoices were as good as having formal agreement in place. But on the 28th of February, the second Stockholm arbitration award was announced. And this was the last day of the month, and this was a very long-awaited decision. But Gazprom was very unhappy about this decision. The award on the transit case confirmed that Gazprom firmly booked transit capacity from Ukrtransgaz and should be paying full booking price, which resulted in additional fee for Gazprom to be paid to Naftogaz in the size of $4.6 billion. Considering the going debt of Naftogaz to Gazprom for 2014 supplies, the arbitration netted total Gazprom liability to Naftogaz to 2.6. And this 2.6 billion should have been payable to Naftogaz immediately upon the award. 28th of February award is final and non-negotiable from Stockholm arbitration procedures. But unsatisfied with the award, Russia again decided to be non-compliant with the contractual arrangements, arbitration awards, and normal business practice. Next day, the first day of the month, Russia refused to supply gas to Ukraine. Russia abruptly reduced the pressure in the transit pipelines from contractual 60 to 65 atmosphere to only 50 atmosphere. Russia notified Ukraine minutes before the actual commercial start of supply that there will be no gas supplies, and that day Russia eventually announced that Gazprom is going to terminate both supply and transit agreements. These 18 million cubic meters of daily volumes were critical for Ukraine at that time. But we are sure that the main goal of this démarche was not actually the volumes of gas supply to Ukraine, but rather undermining and threatening transit of gas to EU and creating a prerequisite for a larger regional scale energy crisis. We should remember that at that time there was a spell of rather cold weather throughout Ukraine and Europe, and surprisingly the volumes of consumption were at the highest throughout the winter. So this only confirms that there is no coincidence in this two events. Russia uses the spell of cold weather as a pretext and the basis for new gas attack. And at the same time, Russia was very vocal in the press throughout these days, and note that another infrastructure project is being promoted as a savior of Europe this time. Ukraine happened to very quickly and reasonably react to this crisis. We had a minute hourly stream on what's happening with the supplies and what are volumes delivered and off-taken by the EU and Ukrainian consumers. Ukraine implemented emergency supply regime jointly developed with the European Union to ensure a rapid decrease of domestic consumption, switching to other fuels, switching off some of the public buildings and institutions from the grid, and launching collective campaign to the consumers to cut off home temperature by 1-2 degrees to save fuel for heating. As a result, one-day decrease of more than 14% consumption saved the grid and saved the situation. But with this démarche, Gazprom clearly is in breach of established contracts, both transit and supply. Gazprom is in breach with clear and final arbitration award. And with this breach, Gazprom is in breach of the common European business practices. Gazprom attempted to create another artificial gas crisis, similar to 2009. This crisis failed, but formal conclusions need to be made and should be studied by any and everyone of Gazprom current and future customers. We are quite confident that the current crisis goal was promote the Nord Stream 2 project, and this project is even more painful and harmful to the European market compared to any other. And as a conclusion, I think it is very important really to promote trade through joint legal and political effort. But have no illusion. Gazprom is a tool for promoting Russia's foreign policy. Russia used and will use critical infrastructure to project force. This will happen as it happened before, during the times when you would most rely on this infrastructure as a source of supply. Only diversification by infrastructure, contracts, and routes will avoid this situation. Contracts are followed only and if they benefit Russia. In all other circumstances, they are forgotten, they are sought to be changed, or they are totally ignored. Except for the common approach and except for the common position, at the moment there are no meaningful legal infrastructure which can limit the Russia's ability to interfere with bilateral relations or which is forcing Russia to comply with international law. Thank you for the attention.
Soruları İngilizce soracağım ki direkt anlaşılsın diye. Now, I think there is no Gazprom in the audience. Before these questions, you can read the questions, I will ask them too, but I have some burning questions from my side. Now it is becoming a habit, you always blame Russia. So I think Ukraine also made some failures, some mistakes. It is not my position to tell you your mistakes. We all know your mistakes. You know your mistakes too. But I will ask two questions that is very important for Turkey. If you can answer, whether it is confidential or not, I know the answer, but the audience may not. You said with the Stockholm Arbitration Court that the court decided that the gas price should be market price. This is a very round word. So to my knowledge, it is the price should be linked to the nearest gas hub. No? What is that hub?
The price is direct NCG hub. It applied to the 4 to 5 billion cubic meters which Ukraine should be taking from Gazprom each year, 2018-2019. And in accordance with arbitration award, Ukraine is entitled to fully resell this gas. Full volume. So you have NCG hub pricing for the volume of up to 5 BCM available in Ukraine.
By the way, he gave the answer, so this is very important for Botash and other importers. So there is a court case here. The second thing is what Ukraine did, wonderful. Diversification is important. You established connections, pipeline connections with neighboring countries, and you imported basically zero of Russian molecules, Russian gas. But actually, what Gazprom says is that, well, actually what they're importing are Russian gas, I mean Russian molecules, not from us, but from, you are following a bigger route. What was the price of gas imports of Ukraine? Would that be more expensive to buy directly from Russia or cheaper? In your reports, it is a little bit massaged politically, I guess, no?
Depending on how Gazprom calculates prices. One day they have 235, the other day they have almost 500, depending on their mood. In the early 2014, when Ukraine only started importing EU gas from EU suppliers, Gazprom was saying that these imports are not actual, but rather backhaul operations. Backhaul is a common practice in Europe, and it is widely available in the markets where no restrictions on the use of the infrastructure. 2014 and up until today, no backhaul volumes are traded at Ukrainian markets. These are actual supplies through Budinci and through interconnectors in Poland and Hungary. These are true volumes flowing first from Ukraine to European customers, and then European customers legally achieving the title for the gas, reselling this gas to Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Definitely European customers are selling this gas with a margin, and these margins are higher than the contract price with Gazprom. Okay. But even with this margin, in 2014 and 2015 in particular, Ukraine achieved a very substantial savings in terms of gas pricing.
Thank you very much for this very clear answer. Now the third question, which is very important for Turkey. Ukrainian president had a declaration saying that they agreed with Qatar to import LNG. Where this will LNG go through? To Bosphorus? What was the imagination of bringing LNG, or the urgency or the need from Qatar, or putting LNG in the import portfolio?
In many countries, LNG is a balancing element in their portfolio of natural gas supplies, and it is very convenient, it is tradable, and it is a growing market in terms of volume and very attractive in terms of price. Ukraine officially approached Turkey many years asking for the permit of LNG tankers transfer through Bosphorus. We are quite confident that on the technical side it is much safer shipments compared to LPG shipments which are abundant, or oil tanker shipments which are unbundled in Bosphorus. But for Turkey it is a political question, and that is why without positive Turkey decision any agreements with Qatar might be on hold for some time. We also know that Turkey is considering constructing an extension of Bosphorus, which would be an important additional channel. It is sometime off, so we are confident LNG will come to Black Sea market this way or the other. But you are right, this is not next year or the year after next project.
Thank you. Mr. Weizmann, a single market in Balkans seems like a dream to me, but dreams may come true. What do you think? Is it possible to have a single market in Balkans?
That very much depends whether you're dreaming this just yourself or whether other people are dreaming the same. If many people have the same dreams, it may come true. So I think there are opportunities now for substantial change in the Southeast European gas markets. It is obviously connected to Ukrainian issues, and Naftogaz had a tremendous success in Stockholm, but it remains to be seen what that success is worth, as legal means may not be sufficient to correct the situation there. It is clear that with new gas arriving in Turkey, and I think that is something which is reality soon, and new gas arriving in a second pipeline, either in Bulgaria or in Turkey, that creates a new situation for Turkey. There may be for the first time that Turkey may become an exporting country rather than just an importing country. So it may be that the combination of increased LNG import facilities, increased pipeline deliveries, increased diversification, Turkey will become a gas exporting market, which is, I think, a first for this country. And for Bulgaria and Romania, obviously these countries are a little bit squeezed by Gazprom, and what Sergei said is true. Obviously Gazprom has been instrumentalized for a long time as a political instrument for Russian influence. As far as Europe goes, that will, at the end of the day, be mitigated by what we call the climate turnaround of Europe, the replacement of gas-fired generation by renewable generation for electricity. So all of that will over time reduce. Now for the countries in the southeastern European area, obviously they also need to look at their security of supply. So they will also need to create market setups that enable them to have the gas they need, and that may bring about a hub facility in Bulgaria.
Thank you. Can Turkish market use Bulgarian, this large, immense storage capacity?
Yeah, we have the first
Yes.
question. What are the barriers for countries, for SEE countries and Turkey using Ukraine gas storage? Unfortunately, Gazprom booked some of critical infrastructure in Romania and Bulgaria, and this booking, which is not used by Gazprom as a matter of fact, is preventing additional flows from Ukraine to southern Eastern Europe and Turkey. But these contracts expire over time, and 2018 is an important year where a big portion of Romanian booked capacity will expire. The new contracts hopefully will be in compliance with current EU legislation on gas trade and will allow the additional volumes to be shipped and transferred. I'm not sure whether this will happen this year, 2018, but I'm quite sure with the regulatory changes in Bulgaria, in Romania this year and the next year, some small volumes can already be commercially shipped through the Balkan pipelines before 2018. And when these bookings expire in 2018 and 2020, more volumes can be shipped, and this is likely to be the prerequisite for the extension of the competitive European markets to the Balkan states, hopefully.
That brings the other question. We can combine some questions. Which, this is for both of you, which market price or hub price, when we talk about hub, for me is where the price is determined, or reference price is determined in the region. What do you see the most probable reference price setting place in East Europe, Southeast Europe?
You know, these reference prices are already there. In reality, price setting is happening where liquidity is. So the biggest liquidity in the continent is the TTF in Netherlands. And good liquidity pool is in the NCG. That's why it has become a traded, let's say, a price setter for Eastern Europe as well. So how is this done? It is basically NCG plus the transportation cost. That's the price. So the price setting is already there. Whether this makes a hub in, let's say, in this region here redundant, no, it could be another price setter here, because the difference, let's say the distance between the NCG and Bulgaria is already fairly large. So there could be another price setting here in the region. Could also be a Turkish hub. It could be, or a border hub across at the border, a place where you would have like a Turkish beach price that could be produced there. Now, but that requires liquidity. This price setting without liquidity has no value, so that is the big problem, or the catch-22 if you wish. And I personally, I'm optimistic that there will be price setting here. It would be good for all the countries here to have more transparency around the gas price as a forward market. It is key to have it. And the one who moves first will the one benefiting from it, I think.
Suppliers naturally driven to increase gas pricing. Consumers, to the contrary, are more keen to accept lower prices. As we've seen, Gazprom used imbalances and defects of the national legislation in order to create artificial monopoly on some of the local markets in order to achieve higher pricing capacity for these markets. I think, and there are many studies in Europe which say that with the limitations of trade removed, the pricing on hubs keen to reflect same actual patterns, pricing of the commodity and smallish changes in the transportation costs. I think it would not be a dream to say that TTF or NCG pricing should be fully available for CEE markets and Turkey in the future, which we'll see in few years from now. But what we all need to achieve through a common effort is actually to reduce the restrictions on the infrastructure use and reduce the transportation cost component in these prices. This will actually create a lot of benefit for the consumers in the region.
Absolutely. Third-party access, fully integrated infrastructure, diversified suppliers. Well, this is one of the goals of the European Commission. Energy security strategy says Europe has to create a pricing mechanism, or what really is gas hub in Southeast Europe, or Europe has to create a Mediterranean gas hub. Why not PSV in Italy? Because all roads go to Italy, all LNG go to Italy, all pipelines end up in Italy. What do you see? PSV becoming a price benchmark in the future? We are not talking about now. Let's talk about 5-6 years ahead. Does it have a chance?
Yes, sure. It has a chance. It's heavily developing now. Also there in Italy, the development really was rather slow in the first 10 years of this century, but it's now changing. Traditionally, again, the Italian gas price was indexed to the NCG or the TTF again, just with the transportation element in it. And I think I also agree with what Sergei just said. I think we need to look at the entry and the exit tariffs, which are still being implemented equally in Ukraine. Ukraine has great opportunities to become a storage hub due to the enormous space available there. But it can only develop that potential if gas can freely move inside and outside Ukraine, and without any of these import and exit fees payable for the suppliers, because they obviously will kill the margin in between. So I think that is something which is Ukrainian, but not only Ukrainian, but it's also European. There is currently a review called Quo Vadis, Latin for where are you going. It looks a little bit at how to restructure the current pancaking of fees through the TSOs, because this is what is currently happening. You obviously have a sort of a serious cost element in bringing gas across borders. All of these countries run entry-exit systems. So you pay entry-exit fees multiple times, and that makes the gas then fairly expensive at the end of the day. So I think there is a project which the EU is working on, and I believe that it will show some fruit. So this study has been submitted, has not been found friends everywhere, obviously, like with every new study bringing up new concepts. But conceptually, that problem needs to be solved looking forward if you want to create that single gas hub you're referring to.
We have interesting questions. Will Turkey become the new Ukraine in terms of gas?
That I didn't want to answer that question.
This is a very nice question, but you always need to treat it with a bit of irony. I think The future of the Turkish Stream 2 is much more obvious, and it is bilateral project. It will eventually be put online. There's still uncertainty to Nord Stream 2, and Nord Stream 2 is disruptive to the whole of Europe, but Turkish Stream can be beneficial for the Turkish market. If Turkish Stream 2 put online volumes which are currently from Ukraine will diminish by the same volume. But will Turkey become a new Ukraine with this respect? Well, judging by the history of Ukraine-Russia wars in terms of gas supply, I wouldn't dare to say that Turkey will replace Ukraine as a first goal for the volumes and pricing. It is a very dangerous game for any consumer to increase dependency on one supplier without a proper legal and regulatory framework with this respect. But what other things are happening in the region? Romania is already a profitable market in terms of gas supply. 2 years ago, Romania was importing Russian gas. Now they have 1 BCM of excess gas, which they cannot export because they have a restricted infrastructure, and this gas is pushing on the domestic gas pricing. Ukraine is developing a very active plan to increase domestic production with a bit ambitious but still not unachievable goal to replace all imports with a domestic production after 2020. More volumes of gas from Ukraine available to the neighbors are likely in the 5 to 10 years term. So these volumes all need infrastructure to transport, and infrastructure need to be properly regulated.
Romania is an important case. It is also a lesson for Turkey, because Turkey established a national energy strategy. Why Romania was an example? Last year, the largest increase in terms of natural gas production in the EU was Romania. And what happened is that last quarter of last year, 2017 last quarter, imports was zero. So became self-sufficient. So this is important for Turkey, but Turkish Stream Leg 2, we still don't know where it will go. It will end up in Turkey, to Bulgaria, whatever the place. It will end up in Baumgarten or in Italy. So, as you know, Snamretegas CEO was in Russia, in Moscow. They discussed with Putin, and one of the issues was to increase cooperation, or even they didn't name South Stream 2, but what else, to bring new infrastructure, gas development cooperations. So we don't know where it will go. What is important is that 15 billion cubic meters plus 15 cubic meters South Turkish Stream 1 is only 30 billion cubic meters. So both Turkish Stream 2 plus Nord Stream 2 will cut radically the transit from Ukraine. You transited 97.3, I think, last year, Russian gas through Ukraine. So 97 billion cubic meters, and we are talking about 15 plus 55. So still not enough. But important, and that would be a big loss for you. Transit revenues, how much? $3 billion?
$3 billion, yes.
Yeah. So that is why whatever in Turkish Stream 2 has also implications for Ukraine directly, but not alone. together with Nord Stream 2. So the border price, what is the preferred price by international players? I think none of them. Because it is difficult to see that Turkey imports gas. Which gas? I don't see any gas that Turkey can import now because all the contracts have destination clauses and oil linked. No?
In Turkey, yes. In Europe, these destination clauses are illegal and have no effect. And most of these oil-linked contracts, if not all, most have been replaced by market-based pricing in the meantime.
And in Stockholm arbitration court decision, destination clause is abandoned, no?
Destination clause is abandoned, and these 5 billion cubic meters which Naftagaz annually can purchase from Gazprom can be resold.
So the lesson for Turkey, in Europe destination clause is illegal. Ukraine and in Southeast Europe,
Illegal as well.
illegal as well. It is legal for Turkey. There's something wrong here.
You're absolutely right. The Turkish Stream and Nord Stream 2 are the projects which are cutting Ukrainian supply. But for the consumers, the most important thing is actually whether the new infrastructure projects which cost billions of dollars will increase the pricing capacity of the consumer. The projects which are not subject to EU cannot be regulated by EU legislation. So the party which is controlling the pipeline will announce as given the transit fees to the consumers. Take it or leave it. They will dump the prices at the start of the project, but they likewise unilaterally can increase the transit prices in the future. So only internationally acceptable regime for pricing of gas deliveries can benefit the end consumers, which is the principal goal. There is a question how we can trust Ukraine as a reliable partner despite the political tension.
All the political questions that I try to avoid, you jump.
I think it is a matter of choice whether you trust someone or not, but this is a matter of our policy to make the information on the operation of the system available. On UTG website, you can see the volumes of intake and offtake from every of the gas storages. You can see the
daily even, no?
Daily, yes. You can see daily data on volumes of supplied from these or that directions and delivered to this or that direction. So really a transparency in the system and attachment of the system to the principle of international law will insulate the system from political meddling and tension. Whatever are the changes in the government, if you are subject to EU third energy package, this government is risking to breach it. And this will be already consequences for this government.
Thank you very much. Is there any burning question? Arada da konuşmacılarımızı tabii yakalayabilirsiniz, kaçmazlarsa. Ben kendilerine açık sözlükleri için gerçekten çok teşekkür ediyorum. Ben şahsen bayağı şey öğrendim. Çünkü bunlar genellikle yazılı metinlerde bulunmayacak şeylerdir. Hakikaten teşekkür ediyoruz.
Değerli konuşmacılarımıza teşekkür ediyoruz. Değerli misafir